Hey, people. I read this last line in Isaiah 58. In that last movie, I read it in the Hebrew. And I pulled it off in the Hebrew and the Greek and in the Latin, color-coded, to see if I could decipher some of this Greek and Latin. I tell you, I think the Hebrew is the easiest to read. And I made a huge breakthrough, and a lot of people won't see the gravity in it. But I figured out where this word domino and domini, they say it means Lord, and there's a whole bunch of different domins that they'll say mean Lord. But if you look at this word domino, they really can't tell you where it comes from. They're not sure. Latin and French with a possible connection to the word dominus, possibly meaning Lord. But it was the Domini down here that helped me, because I already had a good idea of where this was going. And that helped me figure out where this domino come from. But in that last movie, I read this in the Hebrew, and has it young all have you, the work entice. Holy tomb from what yards? And the accletician held the joke in. The joke or the yoke. The joke in is Jacob was the heel. He came out behind. The joke in of he kick, pay who head of her. Kick who's in front. And that's the big clue of where this word domino come from. I color code these where they say that the word is, but actually just because they say this word is, these words are mixed up in here. These words are in different places. It still kind of says the same thing, but it's written a total different way, and there ain't no poet gonna copy somebody else's work. The book's already written, and I'm telling you, it's all the same language. But this reads as to whence, like WHENCE and to whence. And to whence delectiver is delectable, delicious, delectable, to delight, highly pleasing. You can see the word elective in there. Something that's electable, you would select this. And so this delectable is, in the first line, is actually the good things over here in the Greek. To whence delectiver is super, above, do mino, to mino. A domino, is a reaction. Seems like they've been stacking dominoes for thousands of years here. A country that is expected to react in events, the domino effect. But that actually comes from the word do mino. Do mino or to mino. And this is Latin, meaning to threaten or goad. Goad, that's that tool that looks like a fire poker, except it's a little pointier on the hook, and they use it to ride elephants, to prod them, to make them go, to drive, to goad animals. That's the symbol of Ganesh, wisdom, luck, and remover of obstacles. And he was the supreme god in Ganepatya. He resides in the first chakra, the root chakra, your ass. He totes that goad in his right hand. So this is like to mine of, to make a mine, you prod them in the ass. So this is a derogatory term, that motherfucker is poking your ass with a sharp stick. The goad. And so it seems like this is where the word God come from. God, goad. To urge on. A long pointed stick used to prod animals. Old English God. To whence delectiver is over super. Over to prod. That was over here in the last line of the Hebrew. And of a kick pay who'd head of her. To kick the one in front of you. to follow behind the cows and prod them with a pointed stick. Then shall thou delight thyself in the Lord, happily to poke 'em along. And so this ET is just a vowel. It means and so you really can't write it. And so this is it. It's spelt with a TE, but you could take it as a IT. And sust alum it over altitude in is terrace. Over the height in is altitude. The height in is. A terrace. The terrace is a step pyramid. And sus, like sustain, and they'll tell you that comes from the word sub, meaning under. But a sustenance, is what keeps you alive, your food. A sustenere, to hold up, support. A sustenance, something that provides support or nourishment. And sust alum it over altitude, height in is terrace. And so this is where it's talking about this word that they left out, the tomb, and the holy, backwards, T-U-M-B, the holy tomb from what yards, the pyramid in the yard. That's the super altitude in his terrace. And I will make thee ride upon the high place. And sieve of vote, a V-O-E-T. Vote is a foot. To sieve a foot. He's read it at the jack of. He, A-E is a E-S. And he's read it at the jack of. And that would be the jack of jewels that totes the goad. The jack of spade carries a wand of some type, and the jack of hearts totes his axe, and the jack of club, I believe that's a spear he totes. The jack of diamond totes the goad. The jack of jewels. And sieve of foot, he's read it at the jack of. A patrist, who, patrist and why, meaning how or who. A patrist. Patrist, one versed in patristics. A study of the lives, writing, and doctrines of church fathers. And sieve of foot, he's read it at the jack of patrist who, a patrist why. As in 'em do many, as in 'em do little. Dr. Doolittle, he does very little. As in 'em do little, locutomist. A locutomist is a fancy word for somebody who transports, the location, the what is it, the locutomist, somebody who transports, and too little locutomist does he transport. The ass in 'em do little locutomist. So anybody, who's not pulling their share, they're getting assed in. They're getting a goad in the ass. And ass in 'em do many. To do little of locutomist, not transporting enough. To whence delectiver is super domino, is over to goad. And sust alum its upper altitude in his terrace. And supports alum in the upper altitude of the terrace. Up on the jack step. Way up at the top of the pyramid. And sieve of voit, and sieve of foot, he's read it at, the jack of patrist who. And so his heritage, is he is sharp to the writings of the patrist who. The he's read it, and he's read it at, and he's also read the jack of jewels. And sieve foot, he's read it at the jack of patrist who. You're getting a foot from the jack of the Patras to ass in 'em to little locust. Not enough locomotion here. The loquatomist. It says the same thing up here. You're getting a foot in the ass. You're getting the joking of a kick pay who head of her. One in front. It's the same thing. These guys here, they just try to use a little more fancier words, but it's the same language. Just a different font. If you look into it, Google it, and you'll see that the Koine Greek about that time, the Romans were there, and they were forcing everybody to write in a font that they could read because they didn't want any secrets. And so it didn't matter what language you was speaking, what you wrote, you used their font. It's not a Greek language, it's a Greek font. And it's in an English language. And it's the same thing as the Hebrew. The E is the THESE. And these. And if you look up this word, you won't find it, but you'll find all the words around it mean the same thing. These, it's a pronoun when you're talking about other people. And these the pepitos. Pepitos is a sandwich. It's your sustenance over here. The sustalum. And these, the sandwich sip. The sepi, the one that's receiving the sandwich. The same that was over here, the work entice all. Hey, if you're going to eat, you're going to work. And the accletician held. He's holding your food. The accletician held. The fancy word for, who's got your sustenance. The sustalum. And these sandwich sepi, a carrion. Nah, not too sure. A carrion, that's a dead flesh. And wana, WANAVIV. You want to live, you want to vive, you're gonna have to eat the dead flesh sandwich that I brought you. You're gonna have to work for it. And these pepitos sepi carry on, wanna vive as they see. Wanna vive as they see. And then a double E, this is reading as an I. And iffy and a double A here, the first one reads as an I. It's a DIA, mean through, and gotta this gist. Where you're getting go to, this means the ass. And wanna vive as they see, iffy die gotta through, gotta this gist. Of some yea, of some yea, and let there be, happily. Of some yea set in, clear on 'em when. And here, this is the name of jack of, this is a us of, IA reads a U, and us of to, and up, to UP, up at rose U. The double S, this is a YOU, that's where they're getting this your. And clear on 'em when us of, to up at rose you. To jars, tomb it of, carry of. In all is it oughta. In, the L followed by the A reads as an N. In all is it oughta, what you ought to do. And so, and up at rose you, to the jars tomb it of. The jars tomb it of, the tomb was over here in this unspoken word. A tomb from what yards? And so the jars to the tomb is where the carry-on goes. They embalm the rest of you, but they pull out the organs and let them rot in the jars. To the jars tomb it of care you. In all as it oughta. And these pepitos, I'm reading this O-I as E. P-E-P-E-T, pepito, sandwich. In these pepito sepi, the ones it's accepting the sandwich. In these pepito sepi Perion, the dead rotten flesh. Wanna vive as they see, ifi digata, through Gada. And this might even be a nada, the G sometimes reads the N, nada, like denada, nothing. And wanna vive as they see, ifi through nada, through nothing, this gist. And so it seems like later on, when this Greek was written, Egypt was already destroyed, and through nothing this place. And, a PS, UP, and SOM, of some yea, of some happily set in, clear on 'em when, and clear anomia, that's a seer. And clear on 'em when us of, to up it rose you, prod you in the ass, get up. And up it rose you, 2 jars tomb it of carry of. In all is it oughta, everybody should. So thank you very much, Lucky. And these seed pods are drying up, and I'll send you some seeds when they're dry enough to put in a plastic bag. And anybody else that sees the value in this information, you can click here on this PayPal donation. It's going to bring you to another page. Go to the site. And she said it was acting up. And I'll see if I can fix that. I used to have a PayPal button on there. It worked real well. I don't know why YouTube wanted to remove those. But don't forget to like and leave a comment below. It's always good. And I know it's difficult because I try to leave a comment from other channels, and I have a hard time sometimes. I don't think YouTube's liking me. And that's what she said, that my link was acting funny. So she just searched for First Hill Construction on PayPal and got me. So I'm going to try to fix the link. But if you really want to donate and have a hard time, this is how you can find me. And I'm going to cut this off here. Thank you for watching. Good day.